Today on Robert's Full English Breakfast Show, I'm more than thrilled to have the actress Susan Penhaligon. What more appropriate to have Susan in Greenwich on the Thames, because she's floated down the Thames from her little home further upriver. Susan, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for asking me, Robert.
Well, water's played quite a significant part in your life. Whereabouts were you brought up as a child?
I was actually brought up in St Ives. My mother's house was right on the sea. The sea came up to the bottom of our house, and so I used to go to sleep with the sound of the sea.
Sea, books, and I suppose all those abstract artists who were down in St Ives during that period of time. Did you know any of them?
Indeed. I mean, I was a little girl, but my mother sort of fell in with the artists because they were the kind of, the fun crowd down there, really. She knew all of them: Barbara Hepworth, Bernard Leach, Patrick Heron, Terry Frost. I mean, it was, I suppose, a very bohemian childhood I had. I don't think people thought anything of taking their clothes off and rushing into the sea.
It all sounds rather fantastic.
Yes.
But, and did your mother run a bed and breakfast?
Yes, she did. She ran a bed and breakfast, very successfully, by the way, because she did it very tastefully. And people came back year after year. And my brother and I used to be sent up to the baker's on the corner to get fresh bread rolls for the guests before we went to school.
And I heard you taught your brother how to jive. What was the first record you taught him to jive to?
Cliff Richard's Living Doll.
Well.
In the arcade, which is still there in St Ives, on the front.
On the front?
Yes, which was a sort of devil's place for my mother. We weren't supposed to be in the arcade.
Then we fast forward a bit and you went to drama school.
Yes, I always wanted to act. I mean, I really believe that actors are born. But my mother wouldn't let me act before I had what they used to call a second string to my bow. And I had to go to shorthand typing school, which I didn't like very much. And I auditioned for drama school while I was there at this College of Further Education. And I heard that I'd got into the Webber Douglas School halfway through the day. And I was called into the office and he said, "I've got some good news, you've actually got into the school." And I said, "Right, I'm off."
So while at drama school, you shared a flat with somebody rather special, didn't you?
Did I?
Well, I've heard, I'll give you a clue.
Okay.
Because they did say that sort of in the 60s, if you didn't actually...
Peter Hamill! Van de Graaff generator.
And what did he do for you?
He wrote a song.
Can you tell me about it, please?
Which was called Refugees, which he still plays. And it's a wonderful song. I had a boyfriend at the time called Mike. And there's a line in it which goes, "West is Mike and Susie," because we lived in West Kensington in a really grotty, dim, dank basement flat. And he used to sit in the sitting room strumming away, wearing a white caftan, writing songs. It's all very late 60s. But I was a sort of groupie, I suppose. I mean, I used to go around watching the Van de Graaff generator playing, and, you know, it was that time.
It's fantastic because you had the sort of early 60s, 50s in Cornwall, which was a happening place. Then you were up in London in the sort of late 60s and a happening place again.
Yes.
And then came the 70s, which was very much your decade, wasn't it?
Yes, I suppose it was really. I mean, I was the right age at the right time in terms of television, I think, and I looked right. I like to think that I could act as well. But I don't think I would have gone on getting the jobs just on my looks, because I don't think that's what you can do. But I did some fantastic work, because it was a time in British television when there were what I call real writers writing for television. You know, it was the time when they put a Pinter play on television.
And real actors.
Perhaps real actors. I mean, I think acting styles change, by the way, and I think there are some extremely good actors now. I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch, to mention but one. I think there's some very good acting going on television, but I think there were better writers then, you know.
You were dubbed, I'm sure you've heard this many times before.
I know what you're going to say, Robert.
Well, why don't you say it?
The British Bardot. Yes. What a load of cobblers.
Did you find that was a hindrance in later times for casting?
If I'm going to be absolutely honest, I think because of my training, because at that time we were all trained classically. We were trained for rep, which doesn't exist anymore. And so we all wanted to be Laurence Olivier and go to the RSC. And so I had a very classical training. So all this other stuff that seemed to surround me, I really couldn't get my head around. And I think there was a part of me constantly trying to prove that I am a serious actor. And I think I'm still trying to do that.
You starred in several feature films in the 70s, and one which was opposite Doug McClure, and it was the Land That Time Forgot.
Yes.
So how was it filming with him? Because it was slightly more primitive, the sort of backdrop sets in those days. There wasn't sort of CGI.
Not at all, no. And apparently it was ahead of its time, which is why it's a kind of cult film now. I think they did it with little models because, I mean, they're brilliant, these, you know, technical people who made these models, these dinosaurs. But we all did it to a blue screen, of course. It was called front projection and back projection.
It sounds rather uncomfortable.
I know. It used to always make me giggle, particularly when they said, right, this is back projection. And I kind of sniggered. But it was made at Pinewood and Shepperton, you know, at a time when those places were proper studio. I mean, making quite a lot of films, actually. I mean, they're still proper studios, Pinewood is, but actually I met Matthew Bourne the other day, which I got terribly excited about, you know, because I love his
choreography and
his choreography.
And he's got a sense of humour, which is so
and
lacking in this world, isn't it? Sort of.
I was all of a fluster, you know. But he's a great lover of all the old movies, and I was talking about Pinewood Studios and how you went into the bar and the restaurant, and it was all terribly grand. It was all wooden panelled. I suppose it still is. And there were stars of the 50s like Lawrence Harvey and Peter Finch and Roger Moore, you know, these names. I suppose people don't know who Lawrence Harvey is now.
No. Then we move forward a few years and to the part that everybody remembers you for, Prue in Bouquet of Barbed Wire. Of course, it was very controversial in the time. Clive James said, but I think everybody slept with everybody and in the end, and except the baby. Why was it so controversial? And have you seen the remake?
I didn't see the remake because I was on stage and I didn't record it. And anyway, I believe the remake was sort of a rewrite. And from what I hear, they completely changed the character of Prue because they turned her more into a victim, whereas I played a very manipulative, spoilt young girl, which is a great part to play. Wish I could have the equivalent of that now, you know, at my age. But I think the zeitgeist was right for that show at that time, and I think the basic strand of it, which is a father who loves his daughter a little bit too much, I think that's a bit shocking even now.
Yes.
In fact, probably even more shocking.
Yes, because everyone's so politically correct now.
You know, I mean, I think Clive James was being witty about it, but actually, I think what was shocking was and the way Frank Finlay played it. I thought he was brilliant, by the way. And the way he used to look at me, and it was a lot of it was done in close-up. It looks terribly old-fashioned now, by the way. And I think the other thing that was shocking was that, you know, I played a character who got more and more pregnant. So I had these prosthetic bumps that got bigger and bigger and bigger. And there was one scene where my husband got very violent with me and beat me up. Now, that's actually quite a violent...
I think that's more terrifying today, actually, as you said.
Yes, yes. So I when you think about it, you know, that it was all that, I think, that caught on in a way.
It would be quicker to actually say what TV dramas you haven't been in than the ones you have. But
how kind!
You were in A Fine Romance, playing Judi Dench's younger sister. Did you enjoy those times with Judi? My
favourite show to do, because, you know, I had a very good friend, Richard Warwick, playing my husband. Judi and Michael were married, and we just laughed and laughed and laughed. We had such a giggle. And of course, working with her, I think, you know, there have been so many programmes about her. You never stop learning. I mean, it's like going on an acting course, really. And also how to be. She taught me how to be. You know, she taught me to laugh at myself.
You live on a barge on the Thames.
Yes.
Tell me about that. And what sort of barge is it, sort of thing?
It's a 1920s Luxie motor Dutch barge with a 750 Dax diesel engine in it, which I don't use, because I've converted it into a houseboat, really.
It sounds heaven. I mean, I must admit there's some drawbacks to living aboard a boat, but it does sound pretty amazing.
Well, the thing most people say is, oh, what about the winter, you know? But actually, I've got central heating, so it's
really?
Yes.
Very, very posh.
Oh yes, I mean, you know, a lot of houseboats are like that now on the Thames. You know?
Well, I'm going to take you back to your childhood and Cornwall again, and not just sticking with acting. You've written a book, haven't you? Recently published.
Yes.
What is it
yes,
called?
It was published actually a few years ago now. It's called For the Love of Angel, and it was a film script originally, which I wrote with a friend of mine, and we couldn't get it off the ground because nobody wants to make a historical drama in Cornwall because it's too expensive, I think. But so I thought, well, I'll just try recycling. You know, I've never written a book before, and I started and I finished, so I feel quite proud of that. I mean, it's not going to win the Booker Prize, but it's a good tale, I think.
On Robert's Full English Breakfast Show, we always like to give our guests something to remember the experience by. And so today I've got you a painting from a St Ives artist from the early 50s and 60s.
Oh.
This is an abstract painting by an artist called John Christopherson, who went to St Ives or would, sort of every summer when you would have been there. And it's a very amazing thing, I think, and I'd be thrilled to think that you could have it. Susan Penhaligon, thank you very much for coming on Robert's Full English Breakfast Show.
Oh my goodness! Well, thank you very much, and how delightful for you to have asked me on the show. Thank you.